Your Minnesota Twins swept a double dip on Friday against the Cleveland Guardians and have the division deficit down to a game and a half. It's getting close. It's getting real. Let's get Locked On Twins.
You are Locked On Twins, your daily Minnesota Twins podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Well, hello again, and welcome back to Locked On Twins Live. We're live and talking to you on YouTube, or if you're catching us on the back end, we also appreciate you very, very much. I'm Brandon Warren. I'm your host. You can unfollow me on Twitter at Brandon_WARNE. Been watching the Twins for 3 decades, covering them for about half that long, and I'm joined across cyberspace by Mr. Dave Brown. Talk to him, Dave.
Well, Brandon, I'm not really in front of the fence at Wrigley Field. There's no ivy. It is a brick wall, though. It is authentic to brick. I can see that. I've been covering baseball since 1998. I've been a member of the Baseball Writers Association since 2012, and I've been co-hosting this show since December, I think.
Something like that. Yeah, right around the time you told us who you were voting for in the Hall of Fame ballot. You're first, I might add. Did you see the comment I put up on the screen, by the way?
Oh, where am I looking? See, these live shows, they get me nervous. I don't know.
Go, Dad. So someone is logged into your wife's YouTube account watching, which is exciting.
That's pretty good to get Remy away from the Star Wars Lego game he was playing on Xbox or whatever that machine is.
Yeah, and you've got some big plans for tonight. We'll talk about those in just a second here. But first, thanks for making Locked On Twins your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube. And, of course, as part of the Locked On Podcast Network, we're your team every day. We love to hear from you in the comments, especially on these live shows where you can talk to us actually in the chat live and in living color. So, again, we'd like to hear from you. Dave is in the middle of a Pink Floyd music video because he's just another brick in the wall. But
I don't need no education.
Yes. And so today's episode brought to you by PrizePicks, the easiest and most exciting way to play DFS. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnMLB and use code LockedOnMLB, all lowercase, all one word, for first deposit match up to $100. And Twins resuming the Guardian series that is off to a terrific start. It's going to be SWR against Gavin Williams in Saturday night's tilt, 6:10 p.m. Central, first pitch at Target Field. You can catch all the action with Chris Atterbury and friends on the SXM app. Just search Twins once you download it, and you may even hear my voice because we have a radio spot that runs on there too. And I tell you what, it's kind of fun when you're sitting in the car with your family and all of a sudden your voice comes along on the radio and your kids both kind of look up like, what the heck's going on here? So, yeah. By the way, Dave, I have the starting lineup for tonight's game for the Twins.
How did you get it?
The Lord works in mysterious ways. I'm not the Lord. I'm just saying he helped me out. No Royce Lewis, which is sorry, I'm reading the comments on the screen, and it's just great. Remy's really hanging in there with us, which is a lot of fun. No Royce Lewis, which is going to be a point of contention no matter when he sits. I don't think anybody is surprised that he sits. And also, I think it must be exhausting to complain about the lineup every day. But the lineup is as follows: against Gavin Williams, righty, which is important to note because shift change at the mine usually only happens when they start a lefty, which they did in the first game yesterday. Willie Castro at short, Trevor Larnach in left, Matt Wallner at DH, Byron Buxton playing center, Max Kepler in right, Carlos Santana at first, Jose Miranda at third, Ryan Jeffers catching and rounding it out, Austin Martin at second. As I've been saying all season long, like even in a lineup that doesn't have Royce Lewis, doesn't have Carlos Correa, like this is still a really deep, solid lineup. Like this lineup right here, I still think can go toe-to-toe with a lot of lineups in the AL, not the least of which the Guardians, who they're facing tonight.
It's been one of the strengths of the team all season. It's they're resilient and deep, and they don't necessarily have to have all their best players to beat you on an individual basis. Like it would be super nice to have Carlos Correa back out there. He's doing sprints. He's ramping up. He's trying to get out there. If you look at the game Lewis had in the night, I should say he had in the opener, playing a couple games. He's got soft tissue injuries recently. He had some whoops on defense.
He also fouled the ball off his calf. So I mean, he's probably not feeling 100%. Although I don't know if you saw, but he was mic'd up and Wallner hits the homer on the 3-0 pitch. And when I tell you I had chills watching that, I didn't even have the sound on, and I was still all geeked up over that. He screams for 12 seconds straight.
Yes.
He told me he was gonna get him. He told me. It was amazing. It was such a cool moment, and honestly feels a little bit like when the Guardians were running amok on the Twins a few years ago, hitting walk-off homers off Tyler Thornburg and the like.
The first noise you hear after the crack of the bat on Wallner's homer is Lewis yelping for pleasure. And I guess they had a conversation beforehand that Wallner said, Royce, I'm going to get him, or I'm going to get him, however colloquially he put it. And you can see, if you watch the replay of the homer, you can see Wallner, who's not he's sort of the opposite of, he goes about his business in an opposite way that Royce Lewis does. He doesn't really wear his heart on his sleeve very much. But as he's going around the bases, you can see him smile and glance at presumably Lewis.
And then he does
yes.
I love the moose. That's one of my favorite, every year the Twins have these kind of small things. So 1 year, it was Bobby Wilson, who now coaches for the Rangers, and he would do this monocle thing. And I asked him what it was, and it was this. It actually was one of my best stories of the year that I wrote. It was the Eye of the Tiger that he and Dan Gladden had as kind of a little inside joke that he had given him this little charm. Right. I told this before on the show, and he had a 760 OPS since then. If you know Bobby Wilson, he's way more defense first, backup catcher, one of those guys. And so that was a fun story. But there's always these little intricacies of, what does a player do when this happens, or there's getting their double celebration. I love seeing those. And Wallner's moose is probably my favorite one.
Well, that's a good. I mean, it's certainly. Eye of the Tiger is a good, general pump yourself up kind of thing over the long baseball season. Moose, of course, Wallner's a big, large individual, and moose are, one of their native lands is Minnesota, so it all kind of fits in that way.
They had a hockey called Minnesota Moose at one point. Did you know that?
I had a jersey.
I think everybody did that was alive in 1994.
Yes, and I was.
Purple, the purple and all that is it was a great color. Then they became the Manitoba Moose. Right.
Anything with a moose on it, if I don't buy it, I certainly want to.
So you watched Northern Exposure too then? I
did. I kind of watched it. I probably should have watched it more and would appreciate it a little bit more now that I'm older. But
yeah,
anyway, I like the interaction with Royce Lewis and Matt Wallner there. It's a good example of what makes a good teammate in Royce Lewis. The infectious nature of his personality. It's a way to kind of stir the confidence of Wallner. I think that's the one thing that maybe he was lacking at the beginning of the year. He's still not sure about himself on the major league level. He struggled to start the season, and it took him a while to get going. I wasn't sure if this guy was going to be a contributor the way he is, but he's got big power, and he obviously, he was hunting yesterday for a fastball to get, and the pitch was just caught a little bit too much on the plate. But Wallner was ready for it. I mean, a lot of times guys will foul those off, or they won't hit him the way they should, and he took advantage. And a little bit of credit to Royce Lewis for bringing out some emotion in Wallner there. It was appropriate for the moment. It was a great moment for the season.
And I don't know if it was Ryan Spielberg's or the actual play-by-play guy who said that was the Twins' first home run on a 3-0 pitch all season long.
Right.
I remember watching, though, and thinking, and I don't know how much you like expected batting average. During a game, you can kind of get a feel for, oh, boy, they're really peppering the crap out of this guy. And that's what the Twins were doing to Alex Cobb. And no disrespect to Alex Cobb coming back from a serious arm injury or not arm hip, but a serious injury all the same, and having to pitch for a new team in a divisional race. And, he got some hard hit double play balls. He did what a veteran pitcher does, keep his team in the game. But when it got to 3-0, I'm like, oh, please just
Right.
break through here. And then the conversation between Lewis and Wallner, I love that inside baseball stuff. It's kind of like when you see Carlos Correa, like let's say he's hitting second and he hits a home run in the first inning, and then he whispers in like Byron Buxton's ear. Like that to me is the inside baseball stuff that the average fan might miss. That is easy to be like, hey, this is what's happening in the game that you might not see.
Spielborg's an ex-player himself did it a couple times right before Wallner went deep. He's like, Cobb's got to be careful here or he's going to hit it a million miles. And that's exactly what happened. And I'm like, that would be great. You mentioned the first home run on a 3-0 count. I was scratching my head. I'm like, has that happened this year? It seems like it should happen more.
Yeah.
And it was, sort of the culmination of Wallner's preparation and him bouncing back from a tough start to the season. It was just exponentially just a great moment for the Twins and for Wallner.
Yeah, a couple things before we go to break. The actual reaction of Wallner after hitting that was, I still get chills because it was just so cool. And then one of my favorite things that they do on Twins broadcast this year is it'll be a 3-0 count and Corey Provis will be like, green light here. And Justin Morneau, almost without fail, will say definitely before Corey even gets it out of his before it's off his lips. It's
right.
Like definitely. Morneau's a big proponent of the 3-0 green light. Although yesterday, I think it's Roy Smalley said no because it was Manuel Margot and who he was facing hadn't been throwing strikes all game. It might have been Cantillo, but
a little bit of a different situation there. But it's not always a green light.
Yeah, not really. But anyway, let's take a quick break. When we come back, I want to take a look at the pitchers the Twins are slated to face coming up here. We'll talk about how important the first 2 wins are in this series, but how the Twins can avoid having a letdown as well, because you could easily give back those 2 games if you don't have a couple solid ones here coming up. So we'll talk about all that after a break. And of course, we got to give some love to Liquid IV. I had someone ask me if I had a hangover from last night's game, and I assure you, I do not. Not really my thing. I don't do the alcohol anymore. And so, if I did though, I'd be going to Liquid IV because while some people's favorite cold treats during the dog days of summer is an adult beverage or something to that effect, Liquid IV is the kind of thing that you can have no matter the situation, but it will keep you hydrated or get you back hydrated if your previous activities have dehydrated you, regardless of what they are. And you know what, Dave, I did the other day say that I had some in a drawer here. And again, I think I may have, I gave the last 2 to my wife to take to work yesterday. And so we have it here at the house all the time. And to have them a sponsor now is tremendous. It's basically, you get a bottle of water, you put this stuff in it, and you feel like $1 million. It's all these different fruit type flavors. My favorite's the popsicle flavor. It's like a firecracker popsicle, like you remember having when you were a kid. Right. It's got all different kinds of. It's basically a combination of citrus fueled lemon, lime, tart cherry, and raspberry all in one. But there's also acai berry, lemon lime, pina colada. Or my wife was digging around and found pear, and the pear one is terrific too. So again, if you need hydration, Liquid IV is the place to go. Tear, pour, live more. 1 stick plus 16 ounces of water hydrates you better than water alone. It's powered by Liquid IV, Hydroscience, an optimized ratio of electrolytes, essential vitamins, and clinically tested nutrients that turn ordinary water into extraordinary hydration. 3 times the electrolytes of leading sports drink, and it also has 8 essential vitamins and nutrients. And it's always non-GMO, vegan, gluten-free, dairy-free, and soy-free, so it checks all those boxes for people who have those restrictions. No more thirsty summers when you indulge in hydration with Liquid IV. Get 20% off your first order of Liquid IV when you go to liquidiv.com and use code MLB at checkout. That's 20% off your first order when you shop Better Hydration today using promo code MLB at liquidiv.com. And of course, we got to give some shout out to eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience are the formula for winning championships and also what keep your ride alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Whether you need a supercharger, roof rack, exhaust kit, LED headlights, or anything else, whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay's Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or you get your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. And with all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home the W. So keep your ride alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply, and eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. All right, Dave, we're coming into the second segment here, and I want to look at the last two games of the series coming up. Gavin Williams, and as far as we know, Tanner Bybee on Sunday. But the Twins are also going to get Kansas City, Brady Singer, Seth Lugo, and Cole Reagans. And then after that, they head to Texas, where they'll get Nathan Eovaldi, Max Scherzer, Andrew Heaney, and then Tyler Google Me Malley. That's a pretty tough stretch. I mean, again, this is roster resource, so they've got a pretty good idea of who's going to pitch. It's it's not guaranteed, it's not set in stone, but the Twins are going to have to prove their muster. They're going to have to prove their test their mettle here against a pretty dang good pitching, and so far, so good.
Yeah, Eovaldi slated to go in that Rangers series. While I have it on the top of my brain, he got kind of whacked around today, and a trainer visited him, so we'll see exactly where that goes with the Rangers, if that's kind of a
doubleheader.
So this is we've said it before.
Mm-hmm.
It's an important stretch of the season, and it's not only that way for the Twins, but the teams that they're facing. And this is kind of a chance for the Royals to possibly jump over some people. So the next series is going to be as dangerous as this one for the Guardians. But I couldn't be happier with how the Twins started it so far. They weren't exactly facing guys at their best. A rookie pitcher, and then Cobb, who's thrust into, I don't want to say an impossible, but let's just call it a difficult situation in his first major league start this season. So that's taking advantage in one way, but it's going to get a little harder. But like we've said, the lineup is deep. The Twins don't necessarily always have all of their top sluggers in the lineup, but there are very few weak spots in the order. And these games, at least the first two series, are at home. The Rangers, they go on the road for that, do they not?
Yeah.
It would just be like the rest of the previous parts of the season if the Twins came back and dropped the next two games. But I don't feel like that's about to happen. So I mean, it certainly could, but 3 out of 4 is really looking good at this point. The pitching matchups do get a little tougher though for the offense.
Yeah, I feel like if Meatloaf thought 2 out of 3 ain't bad, 3 out of 4 is probably even better, right?
Right.
What did I tell you would be a good knockout punch? And maybe I said earlier in the game, but you remember the other day what I said would be a good way for the Twins to really.
What did you say, Brandon?
A Matt Wallner 3-run homer.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, so we kind of massaged that a little bit. Oh, by the way,
yeah.
Buster Only tweeted, the Twins are only 3 games back of the best record in the AL. I believe we had an entire episode not that long ago where it was, hey, don't sleep on the Twins being in the mix for being the best team in the AL. I'm not saying, I'm just saying.
Finally, everybody's catching up to us.
Yep.
And it's I look at the injuries that have been sustained recently, and it's I still like the team to win maybe 95 games, but it's going to take a push, and it's going to take relying on some guys who are still sort of unknown at this point. They're not going to have Joe Ryan, at least for a bit. We're looking at if he comes back mid-September, late September. I mean, that would be amazing if he were able to come back. The way I heard the injury, it's going to be tough. And it's harder to, when you get that late in the season, what else is difficult is rehabbing injuries because
no minor league play at and that sort of thing. I heard also the median is like 99 days for this injury for recovery.
Oh, really?
Like
that's a lot. That's 3 months. That's too many.
140 if you have the surgery, 99 or 100 if you don't. And again, you have to pick one lane or the other. Because if you have the surgery, you know, so let's say he finds out recovery won't bring him back. So he says, okay, well, I'll have the surgery. That does kind of throw off your offseason plan. I don't know. I don't know what the right answer is. All I'm saying is I thought the Twins responded really well to getting some difficult news at the start of the day. Not only that Joe Ryan was injured, but that Brooks Lee also going in the IL, which we shouldn't gloss over. Granted, he has hit the skids a bit of late, but he's looked like he's belonged as a big league shortstop. And you can't really understate that for a guy who's, you know, just a handful of games into his career.
And you have to wonder, has the looming, you know, a shoulder injury, some kind of thing leading up to this, had something to do with him not being able to continue the hot start that he had. So, you know, his bat kind of went a little south there for a while, and I wonder if it's shoulder related. So, and as far as the team not worrying too much about the bad things that happened to them, there was a brief, you know, video clip of Byron Buxton yesterday saying that, you know, I don't worry about things too much that I can't control and I don't have any information about. And, you know, there's a little bit of tunnel vision going on, I think, and it's a credit to Rocco and his staff for having the guys generally prepared to deal with the ups and downs of you know, the Twins players know certainly by this time that there's a good chance that they're not always going to have all their pieces ready to go, even for big games like this. So, and look at what happened in the second game yesterday. You know, Rocco was not going to bring back Jax and Duran and even Alcala to protect that lead. He leaves it in the hands of guys who have not performed well, and certainly in are kind of risky in high leverage situations. You know, Caleb Thielbar, easily his best performance of the season. You know, we've seen sometimes he's good at getting over the curveball, but everything else doesn't fall into place. Yesterday, it was just kind of an amazing, quick 2 innings, just what they needed. And then in the last inning, Trevor Richards comes in, and I'm like, are they really doing this? Is this the guy to protect the lead? And, you know, Richards, his first game, it was kind of like an Alex Cobb situation where he was sort of thrown into it. And, you know, without a chance to warm up, you know, the classic way in the bullpen, he goes out there and walks the stadium. And it was, you know, Rocco seeing an opportunity. He's like, well, I'm just going to, this is the guy we have, and we're going to go with it. And, you know, I don't know if there was like a subconscious wink to the ownership, you know, well, this is the guy you got us at the trade deadline. Now we're going to use him. You know, you brought him in. We need him. Let's do it. And it worked out. It was it was kind of a little bit of a high wire act, but it was very easy 7th, 8th, and 9th inning. It wasn't just that they got the job done. There was no question they were going to get the job done. And Lavelle Neal said, you know, I'm gobsmacked at how this game ended, and I was feeling similarly. It was a very interesting way to end the game, not just with the W, but how it happened.
Yeah, we've seen this go poorly for Rocco, playing the percentages in the past where the fans get mad because it didn't work, even though the data would support it. I will say this, though, and we'll go into our final break after this, that guys don't forget when you have their back. You know, Caleb Thielbar not getting cut, which I don't know that there was ever a danger of that, but, you know, Richards coming off 5 walks in less than an inning. Guys don't forget when you put them back out there in a spot. And it cuts both ways. Like, yeah, hey, ownership, this is what you gave me. This is what we're trying to win with.
Right.
Either it works or it doesn't. But at the end of the day, this is what you decided to do. We do have an interesting comment that I want to put up on the screen when we come back about starting pitching. So we'll take our last break here quickly. And then when we come back, we'll address that post-haste. And PrizePicks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. It's the easiest and most exciting way to play DFS because it's just you against the numbers. You pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. And you can play as risky as you want or as safe as you want, and the multipliers reflect that. If you get real risky, you can get up to 100 times your money back, putting down $10, getting back 1,000. It's risky, it's tricky, but it will work if you pick the right picks. And you also don't have to worry about anybody, you know, nudging you out with all their algorithms or 50 entries or anything like that. It's just you against nobody else except those numbers. And it's baseball, football's coming up. There's a lot of preseason stuff going on. Let me just say, if you're doing this with preseason football games, my hat's off to you, because I can't stomach that level of risk. But hey, you do you, boo. And if you're watching, Team USA going for gold, you got options there as well. You can make your picks in as little as 60 seconds too. This is not time intensive, so it's pretty great. And if you look for promotions, PrizePicks has you covered too. Whether it's lowering select player stats projections on Tuesday to help your lineup hit, or you get your entry fees back if you have a losing lineup on Fridays, PrizePicks has you covered, and they're available in more than 30 states, including the one I'm in. I don't know about the one you're in, Dave, but if you're in Missouri, check it out. And so download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. That's code LOCKEDONMLB on PrizePicks for a deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. All right, and so the question we have is from IZ the Faithful, not someone I think I've seen in our chat, so we do very much appreciate them being active in here. Do they have a plan to replace Ryan, and who will? Miss Sonny Gray already. Now, the plan to replace Joe Ryan at this point of the year is difficult because we're past the trade deadline, and the Twins already had the chance to do this and balked, and not like Tim Herron balked, but but they balked at trading because of what the price was at the deadline, or just doing whatever it cost price-wise before the season. But I want to focus in on the Miss Sonny Gray already comment. Sonny Gray missed a bunch of time early in the year for the Cardinals, but he's been about as good as could be expected. And, you look at the Twins' budget, and there's a Sonny Gray-sized hole in that budget. It's not hard to dream on what this team could look like with Sonny Gray, because then you're looking at a rotation, when healthy, of Pablo, Sonny, the present-day version of Bailey Ober, which you cannot say enough about. He was incredible in that first game, and it's kind of embarrassing that I took 27 minutes to acknowledge that. By the way, Louis hit 98.5 in the second game. So, just incredible pitching across the board by the Twins. But yeah, we all miss Sonny Gray from the standpoint of he would look pretty good in this rotation. He does have those third time through the order problems that have been rearing their ugly head in St. Louis. But budget-wise, they could have made that work.
Well, Sonny Gray's not coming through that door, as they say. That time has passed. That train has sailed.
Yep.
Possibly, as far as a plan, the MLB Trade Rumors reports that the Twins have been scouting Rich Hill, who's 44 and was with the Twins for part of for all of the 2020 season. I don't think he made every start. He might have had an injury, but he was there and he did well when he was out there.
He made more starts than the guy who signed on the same day. Do you remember who that was?
Was that Lynn?
No. I'll give you a hint. A righty who pitched most of his career in the NL Central and had a $100 million contract in his career.
I'm drawing a blank. It's still not Lance Lynn?
Homer Bailey.
Oh, Homer Bailey.
Yeah,
he was Batman, by the way.
Yeah,
he was like Batman.
I wrote a piece for the place I was writing at the time about Homer Bailey that took longer than his entire Twins career on the mound.
Well, there's an editing process here, Brandon. You just have to be patient.
I was the editor, so.
So Rich Hill last year did well with the Pirates. He came into the season with a plan to just come in at the second half of the season because he's an old man, and also it gives him an idea. Well, who might be going to the playoffs here? Kind of like the reverse Garrett Crochet. No, bring me to the playoffs. I don't want to sign. I'm signing that now. I've got a contract now. I'm not worried about next year. So he could be the guy. There's lots of other teams that are going to be interested in Rich Hill, but he knows what it's like to pitch in Minnesota. I would be for it. I wouldn't be heartbroken if it didn't happen. I wouldn't necessarily expect it to work, but I might want to try it. If it's not him, there could be. We'll see how Zebby Matthews continues to proceed at AAA. His last start was his best one for St. Paul so far. It's kind of been a rocky start. And what are the other options? Getting Paddock back. I think those are the three main options. Who am I missing?
No, that's about it. I think you could bring up Zebby and move someone. I think like Andrew Morris could come up to AAA and backfill. The truth is they have a lot of pitching depth. Morris at AA Wichita in 12 appearances, 10 starts, has a 1.90 ERA, a strikeout per inning, 63 and 61 in 2/3 innings, and has allowed 1 home run. So
they have talent.
Yeah.
Depth is a little more, I don't want to say proven, but depth is a word that, that we can feel strongly about.
There's been years where Simeon Woods Richardson would be the number 1 on this team, and guys like PJ Walters were who you were calling up. So, I mean, Scott Diamond was their best pitcher one year. So it leaps and bounds from the last decade.
Definitely so. And that's great for Falvey. If you Google his record, you'll see that the Twins are in an upswing. I'm just trying to get us through October and early November here. And I don't know how much of that depth is going to, help them. I think it might have helped them in a trade. Bo Landsman. And eventually it's going to come through. So we'll see. I think the big key is probably going to be how David Festa does. If David Festa continues to do what he's been doing in his last couple starts, that's not necessarily going to replace Joe Ryan, but I think he is going to be a guy who's going to be as good as like a 4th starter. Maybe I'll just stop there. And that would be huge for the Twins. I think that other than these other guys who might step in, 44-year-old people, 24-year-old people without experience, I think getting Paddock back, who knows what he's going to have left. Festa continuing to show his talent, that is going to be the key between now and November to see how far the Twins go.
Yeah, it's kind of wild to think that Rich Hill could have legally had a drink when Simeon Woods Richardson was born. But we got to run. This has been Locked On Twins. Thank you so much for joining us. We love these live shows, and we'll see ya
tomorrow night.